Let's talk about the accessories that came with your machine. We have the manual, which is going to show you a lot about what your machine can do and what we talked about today. You have your quick start guide, which is going to talk about threading and bobbin winding and give you some pictures. You have the little bag that the accessories came in. You have the pedal or foot control. I like to call it the pedal because it's kind of like a gas pedal. And it has an attached power cord, so it has only a single plug to attach both the power and the pedal. Then we have, on the machine, we have the regular foot, and we also have the G foot, which is for doing a blind hem. If you don't know what a blind hem is, that's a future lesson. But it has an adjustment over on the side where you can adjust this to make it wider or narrower. This is also useful for sewing top stitching if you want to have a precise distance from the edge of, say, a collar or a cuff or something like that. You can adjust this and run the edge of your collar or cuff or your seam right along that little guide and have a nice, straight, even seam. This foot here is for putting on zippers. Now, I'm not here to show you how to put on zippers because we don't carry zippers in our store, and that's more of a sewing technique. But this is good for putting on zippers because you can sew really close to your zipper teeth using this. It can be put on either on this side or on this side, depending on which side of the zipper you're sewing on. This is your buttonhole foot. And you want to put it on the machine this way, not this way, and I'll show you why. The clamp for putting on the foot, this little bar clamps onto here. The needle is in front of that clamp. So if you put it on this way, guess what? Your needle would hit right there, and that would not be good for your needle. Speaking of needles, we have a set of needles. Oregon Needles is a good brand. We have 3 pieces of information here. HA times 1 means the type of needle. That's a universal needle. 14 is the size of needle. That's a pretty standard size. I kind of like size 12, but 14 is just a slight little bit larger. And 3 means there's 3 pieces, 3 needles in there. When you open this, feel which is the narrow end, which is the wide end, because the needles are put in such a way that the pointy end is one way, the thick end is the other way, so you want to cut that across there like this. This is also a foil packet, so you can tip it down like that once you've got your needle out. Needles you want to change fairly frequently. I would say every 3 full bobbins of thread that you use up. By that time, the needle has pierced through the fabric enough times that it's starting to get a little bit dull at the tip. So it's better to change your needle a little bit too often than not enough. If you haven't changed your needle in 10 years, that's not good. You're going to really notice the difference when you put a new needle in your machine. Okay, we talked about spool caps a little bit before. The spool cap I used for the Mettler thread that's on the machine is a small one because we have a small spool. If you have a larger spool, you'd use your larger spool cap. The purpose of the spool cap is to keep the thread spool from sliding off of the spool pin. Here we have our seam ripper. This would be used for taking out mistakes. You just slide this right under your stitches, and that you can take out your stitches easily that way. This is also good for putting that center slit in the buttonhole. When you make a buttonhole, you open your buttonhole with this. This has a cap right here, which gives it a little bit of an extra grip to it. Plus, the nice thing about this cap, it keeps your seam ripper from rolling away. That's what these little things are for. When you're done using it, make sure you close it up. Here we have a screwdriver. This is a nice little short screwdriver that works great for taking the needle plate off because it's nice and short, and you can use any one of these 3 corners. It's nice to be able to use this if you need a little extra torque to get that screw started, but this works great this way. Okay, that is the accessories.